21. Kamaha. Sorrow. I wanted to return all of Malia's possessions. But Boki had most of her books, and he intended to keep them for himself. He'd already traded some of the other items for favors from his neighbors. At least I could return her catechism. I decided to do it one afternoon when Boki was sleeping in the next room. I slipped Malia's book from beneath my mattress. I opened the book and turned its pages. It had the 10 Commandments written there. I'd learned those from the Protestants in Honolulu. And I had broken many of them since coming to this place. Especially the one about stealing. The Apostles' Creed was there, too. I looked down through the statements it made about our Lord, was crucified, died, and was buried. He descended into hell. I turned the pages and saw some prayers, Our Father who art in heaven. So where is God? I wondered. In heaven or in hell? I thought about Kiona and her Protestant church friends. To me their God seemed far away from this place, but they loved him and trusted him to help them. And now here was Malia, who had brought a Catholic book with her. I'd seen her going with other Catholics into St. Philomena's church, the one built by Brother Bertrand. But since there was no priest here to conduct services, Malia was probably desperate for this book. I tucked it into the waist of my trousers. Satisfied with the level of Boki's snoring, I tiptoed outside and across the yard. I climbed onto Maui and turned him toward the center of the peninsula. I would ride out toward Kameka's homestead to see if Pele was tied there. If not, I would take the book to Malia. Ahead, I saw 2 men on the trail. Between them they carried an old blanket with a long lump wrapped inside. Another death. I slowed Maui when I came alongside them. I recognized Hulu, the quiet man who had come on the ship with me. He stared straight ahead, saying nothing. But the other man offered an explanation. He has gone on the road of no return. You're Ohana? I asked. The man shook his head. No, he said. But he died near my clump of grass. We must move him. Where will you bury him? I asked. The man nodded toward Ka'urhako. We will throw him in the crater. I nodded and urged Maui forward. Someone died nearly every day on the peninsula. If they were lucky, friends would dig a shallow grave. But tools and the strength to use them were scarce in Kalawao. I worried how it would feel to die. But mostly I worried if anyone would even care. Would Boki kick me into a shallow ditch for the pigs to eat? Would Kameka throw my body in the crater? Would anyone even know? Out ahead on the trail, I saw a horse and rider coming toward me. Pele and Kameka. I could turn around so that I wouldn't have to meet Kameka. But where would I go? Even if I avoided him now, I could not do it forever. He had followed me to this island, and I couldn't get away from him. Maui nickered softly and trotted faster toward Pele. I looked straight ahead as we came closer. Kameka reined Pele to a stop. I dug my knees into Maui's side, but he paid no attention. Instead, he slowed down to greet Pele and put his nose to hers. I jerked on the reins, but Maui did not pull away. He took a step closer, stretching to scratch Pele's neck with his teeth. The sharp, familiar scent of the 2 sweaty horses filled me with memories. I yanked the reins, but Maui pushed into Pele, scratching her hide. And Pele scratched back. Even when I slapped Maui with the reins, he only sidestepped. Pele followed, and the 2 of them performed a sort of dance on the rocky trail. Maui nickered softly. His voice was a pleading that made my throat ache. At least they haven't forgotten each other. Kameka's voice was set and accusing. I felt his eyes inviting me, but I turned my head. He did not look like the old Kameka anyway, not with the light gone from his eyes. And he was so quiet. Without his laughter, Kameka was a stranger. I kicked Maui sharply. He lurched forward but trotted only a short distance before stopping again. Kameka's voice called back to me, we could be friends, too. I kicked Maui again. I smacked him with the reins and slapped him with my hands. He galloped across the peninsula. From behind us I heard the high sound of Pele's whinny. Maui called back. I rode fast, but I did not turn on the trail that led to Kameka and Malia's house. Suddenly I didn't want to see Malia after all. I galloped back and forth across the plain, jumping low rock walls and dashing around boulders. But wherever I rode I couldn't get far enough away from Kameka and Pele. From Kalawao and leprosy. I felt again how I was trapped here. I rowed out to the sea and sat by its edge while Maui rested. I imagined I saw the faint outline of Diamond Head in the distance. I saw the sunlight playing on its red sides and the blue cloud shadows that chased after the sun. I didn't think it was real. Surely I could not see Diamond Head from this distance. But many times I had sat on this black shoreline and looked out over the water. In my mind I had seen so much of my home from this spot. I had seen my mother and Kimmy heading to the market, loaded down with flower garlands they'd made to sell. And coming home with trinkets and necessaries they'd gotten in exchange. I'd seen Kimmy's face pleading with me to play with her. If I could be there again at home on Waikiki I would swim with her instead of pushing her aside to follow Kameka into the surf. But I would never see Kimmy again, never sleep in my mother's house, never again eat poi with Kameka, Lonnie, and Tutu. This peninsula was my world now. It was all that I ever saw. And it was so desolate. Where were its banana and orange trees? Its curved palms and straight papayas? What had this place been like before the coming of leprosy? Had there ever been trees in Kalawao? I supposed they'd been cut down by the first patients 7 years earlier. How else could they have built their shelters? Now the only tree left in the settlement was that small hala tree beside the Catholic church. I had to wonder if it had been left for some special purpose. Why was it still growing in this graveyard? I had so many questions. Later I turned back toward the Kalahako crater. When I rode close to Kameka's home, I saw that no one was there. So I hopped down from Maui and pulled the prayer book from my waistband. I placed it in a metal pot just inside the door. I could have looked to see what kind of home Kameka had made for Malia. I could have peered into the life they made together there. But I didn't. I turned instead, climbed on my horse, and rode away back into the cold winds of Kalawao.